Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Muhammad Atif and this is the summary of today's lesson. Today we started Unit 2, Lesson 5, page number 28, English Student Book, and the title of the lesson is Stone Soup. During the lesson, during the class, first of all, I've shared the lesson objectives and then I displayed the vocabulary words regarding today's lesson. So here is the lesson objective slide. Basically, lesson objective means the purpose of today's lesson. The purpose of the lesson, that why we are going to learn this lesson. So listening, first of all, in our today's lesson, we listened to the story and we read the story also. Then in speaking activity, we will talk about helping each other and we will discuss why we should help each other. Then critical thinking. In critical thinking, we will talk about giving opinions and the moral of the story is helping each other. In vocabulary section, we discussed these vocabulary words. First of all, chunk, a roughly cut piece; crumb, a very small piece of bread, cake, or biscuit; cabbage, a large round vegetable with large green, white, or purple leaves that can be eaten cooked or uncooked. Then sack, a large bag made of strong cloth, paper, or plastic. Then smooth, having a surface or consisting of substance that is perfectly regular, no holes, no lumps, or no unstable uh, surface. Okay, so mushrooms are fungus with a round top and short stem. People also use it in food. Then herbs, a type of plant whose leaves are used in cooking to give flavor to dishes. And doctors or pharmacists also use it in making medicine. So these are the vocabulary words that we discussed in our lesson. After that, I asked the opening question of today's lesson, and today's opening question is look at the ingredients. Okay, we have these ingredients pictures. Okay, look at the ingredients for a soup. Which one is odd? Odd means different, and ingredient means uh, the things that we use or add while making any food. So a piece of meat, okay, or a chunk of meat, some onions, mushrooms, carrots, cabbage, and herbs, spinach, and salt and pepper, tomatoes, and also a stone. So I asked the students that which one is different. Odd one means the thing that is different in a particular group of things. For example, all are vegetables, okay, and you can say food, okay, different groups of food. But stone is definitely it's not a group of food. We do not eat stone. So this is the different one. So students identify the different one, the odd one out. Then students read the story. The story was so interesting, and it is about a young boy, young traveler who was hungry, and he tried to get some food from a particular village, but when everyone refused, then he brought up with an idea, and he tried to convince them that he has a magic stones, and then he cooked a magic stone soup. So after reading the story, I already included the track because we have also this story in audio form. So I'm going to include it also in the summary video so you can also listen to the track. So kindly listen to it carefully. I'm going to include it right now.
Track 11. Track 11. Stone Soup.
Once there was a young man travelling around the country selling goods. Times were very hard, and every day he sold less and less until he didn't have any money at all. On the same day that he ran out of money and food, he came across a small village. He thought that in the village he would find someone who would give him a bit of food. He knocked at the door of a pretty-looking house. A woman opened the door slightly. The young man asked the woman if she had a little food to spare for a weary young traveller, but sadly the woman answered that she had no food at all. Curiously, the same thing happened at all the houses in the village. There was not even a crumb of bread left in the entire village. The young man was not discouraged. Instead, he came up with a plan. The young man found a wealthy-looking house in the center of the village. An elderly man answered the door. The young man asked him if he had a large pot of water that he could spare. The old man asked him what he wanted it for. The young man explained that he was so sad about the lack of food in the village that he was going to make a big pot of soup for all the villagers from a special stone he had found on his travels. The old man gave the young man a large pot of water and a stirring spoon and helped him build a big fire next to his house. The young man took a smooth stone out of his bag and put it in the pot of water. As he stirred the water, the young man mentioned to the old man that the magic soup was always better with a little onion and a head of cabbage to add extra flavor. So the old man went into his house and returned with a bag of onions and a head of cabbage. A neighbor who was putting out her washing smelled the onions and the cabbage cooking. She went to the old man's house where she was told about the special soup made of stone. The young man who was stirring the soup mentioned that the magic soup was always very good, but that a little bit of meat, perhaps a carrot and some potatoes, would add some extra flavor. So the woman went into her house and returned with a chunk of meat, a bunch of carrots, and a sack of potatoes. A little girl who was playing in the street smelled the soup and became curious about the smell. She went to the old man's house. The young man stirred the soup and mentioned to the girl that the magic soup was always very good, but it would be even better with a few beans and a pinch of salt and pepper. So the girl ran into her house and returned with a bowl of beans and some salt and pepper and added them to the pot of soup. The woman from the first house where the young man had asked for food was in her garden collecting some herbs and mushrooms. She smelt the soup and became curious about the smell. So she walked down the lane to the old man's house. The young man stirred the soup some more and mentioned that the magic soup was always very good, but that a few mushrooms and some herbs from her basket would add even more flavor. The woman gladly added her ingredients to the soup. In a while, the soup was cooked and everyone had a bowl of delicious stone soup. No one could believe that such a flavorsome soup could be made from just a stone. The young man served another bowl of soup and smiled to himself.
So that was the track that we included in our lesson. Okay, and we also discussed the story as I've mentioned earlier. And inshallah, in next part of the lesson, we will start exercise, and we will resume our lesson inshallah from exercise 3. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for your time. Take care and Allah Hafiz.